retro atomic zombie adventureland makes its debut. Celts Pinball.
Hold on. I got Gary Flowers calling immediately. You can't. It's freaking impossible. Our listeners might know that Gary usually at some point tries to call in during the show. I guess he's very impatient this time. He doesn't want to miss out. But we're still in the headline, so hold on. Gary, you're too early. Call me back later. Thanks. Please continue.
Okay. Celts Pinball now available to order. And Illinois Pinball's Gene Cunningham dies.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Joosten. I'm the editor of Pinball Magazine, and I'm here with...
I'm Martin Ayub, the editor of Pinball News. And we're here with our monthly podcast looking back at the news and events in the pinball world from the past month. And this time we are looking back at November. Oh my goodness, it must mean it's December already. Oh, the year's almost over. But we're looking back at November 2019.
Right. And, well, it's been an interesting month, I would say. And usually you say that every month. This time, apparently, we switched the roles.
Yeah. Well,
I guess Gary threw us off. It's, okay. So it's going to be an episode like that. So, let's not waste any time on that. Yes, it was a very interesting month. I think, like the first headline, Retro Atomic Zombie Adventureland is the newest game that has been shown to the public. And that's the first game by Deeproot Pinball from San Antonio in Texas. So obviously we're curious what it would be like and what people thought of it. And what did you get from it?
Yes. Well, the game was revealed at the Houston Arcade Expo. We'd had the pictures before and some details of the game, but this was the first chance anybody had to get their hands on it. And it's important to note that the game that was shown was definitely a prototype. Various aspects of it will change before it goes into production. It looked, as far as I can tell, very nice. It had some good animations on the display. The playfield looked very colourful, bright. Some interesting shots. The right-hand ramp is a long, sweeping, curving ramp, which certainly was achievable on those games, but certainly wasn't a given either. You had to make this a very clean and maybe even a rolling shot in order to get the ball all the way up the top. But it certainly looked like there were plenty of options and things to shoot for on the game. It was running a relatively simple set of rules. It did have a multi-ball mode, for completing zombie by shooting target at the back of the playfield. I think it had a second multi-ball as well in there, and it didn't have a huge amount of sound or voice calls in it, but there were some. And I think everybody who played it was impressed by both the appearance and the gameplay, and with the prospect of the game advancing and improving even further before it's actually going to be revealed as a finished product, which is going to be early next year. We'll talk about that in a minute. I think it's showing great potential. What did you think?
Well, first of all, let's note that we were both not at the Houston Arcade Expo where the game was revealed, so we had to do with videos and reports from other people.
Mm-hmm.
My first impression was when I looked at the playfield, I really had a Bally Williams 90s pinball look to it, so to speak. The ramp looks interesting. I like the art on the game, even though that might be placeholder art, but still, I liked it. I love the display. It's a very wide and narrow display. with apparently somebody did some research. There are displays in that size that have the speakers included, like with televisions, which is actually, I'm not sure what the quality of those speakers is, but actually it makes a lot of sense to use those type of speakers, because it might be cheaper than putting in an LCD and two separate speakers like Stern and other manufacturers are doing. So I thought it was actually a pretty clever idea. And I really like the look of it, and I've read very good reviews about the animations on the game. So that's something that Deeproot really is very good at the moment.
Yeah.
From the video that I saw that a lot of, first of all, let's say that the videos out there are not the best videos that you would like to see.
No.
But then again, if you have average Joe flipping the game, and the average Joe has a problem with getting the ball further up than 2/3 up the playfield, then you might have a problem. I'm not sure how that's... obviously, you want to make a shot and then either that builds up to something or whatever, or you want to shoot it around. But I got the feeling that the ball either hit a bunch of posts or it got stuck in that mini totem lamp spinner type thing, which is a bit like the spinner on the spinning disc on Safecracker, but then upside down.
Yeah.
And I get the idea that it's supposed to be blocking a shot, but because it's so small, it appears to be blocking the shot all the time, which seems a bit... I was not too fond of that, although I did like the idea of making that an upside down Mac. I can see some people are wondering where's the innovation. I can see there is innovation. I mean, they apparently used a placeholder cabinet, so it's not the final cabinet that the games will be presented in.
And the back glass art was a placeholder as well.
Right, and the cabinet art. And but overall, I was pretty impressed, I have to say. And that tamed a bit down after I've seen a bunch of videos where not much appeared to be happening, but also that has to do with game code. I mean, if you shoot a ball up and nothing's happening and it's coming down and you shoot it up, but I'd say the game has great potential.
Yeah, I think we agreed on that point. It was, in a way, some aspects of it were, very well advanced, but also some of the sort of basic things, as you say, make some shots, you don't get any sounds, or there's no obvious feedback that you've completed the shot. That was the kind of stuff you'd expect to be sort of fairly basic in the game code. Right. There'll be something there, even if they end up changing what it is or how it looks or what it sounds like.
Yeah. One thing that I did notice, and obviously a lot of people noticed, that the ramp shot, the center ramp shot, is pretty hard to make it completely up to the top of the ramp. It's a very long ramp to get to the top. That's in itself is not so much a problem, but since it's pinball, I really hope that they will have optos across the lamp that follow how far you get up the ramp and add some sounds to that, because that will make it far more enjoyable than just shooting up the ball up a ramp and it doesn't make it and it's just rolling back, but the game will not know when it's rolling back unless you have some sensors up there that is sensing when the ball is rolling back. And if you didn't make it and you want a special a sound effect, at least I would like that, where it's indicating that you didn't make it. Obviously you can see it, but add a sound effect to that. That's going to cost a few dollars to implement. I get that, but it's like with the spinners on electromechanical games. Those that really that have a sound attached to it every time it spins. So, and the slower it spins, so you get ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Well, you get sort of the same thing if you have sensors on the ramp that sense how far the ball is going up and add some sound to that. So, but.
Yeah, well, there was no indication of pricing on the game. There's been a lot of speculation about that.
Yeah, I have my own ideas about that.
Well, Deeproot have said they were looking to be innovative in the pricing of the game as well. But looking at the amount of hardware on that Raza game, I can't imagine it's going to be a cheap game unless they're looking to do a loss leader on the first title, but that would be a very strange business decision, and I think they want to promote their product as being a premium product rather than a cut price one.
Right. So, well, obviously, potential pricing of the game has been discussed, but one comment that I haven't seen being made yet, although I didn't read all the discussion, all the posts and comments. But my thinking is, obviously, Deeproot is making a certain number of original buyers from the Raza game whole by providing them with a new game. I think originally these people paid like $15,000 for that game. I don't think it would sit well if they would get a game that would be priced under the price of a Stern Pro game, because yes, they got a game, I get that, but if you paid $15,000, you expect to get a $15,000 game, and so for that reason, I think Raza is not going to be in that ballpark as much as I would like it to be, but it would just give people that paid a lot of money for a game that eventually, after years waiting, finally get a game. It would still leave a bad taste in their mouth knowing that they got a game that's less than what they paid for, basically.
Well, that's true, but that's assuming there's just the single model of that game. There isn't a limited edition or deluxe model or a Super LE or what do you want to call it, which is priced higher, which is maybe what those people would get. I have no idea
what their plans are in that context, but you might be right. There might be some sort of special edition where you get some sort of extras that would apparently validate a higher pricing. So.
Yeah, so lots of questions to be answered, and we won't know the details of that until the game is officially launched, and that's going to take place in March. Now, you and I are both planning to be there, right. I think.
Yes.
Deeproot have told us that they are going to be doing a press launch for Raza and maybe other games, and that will be taking place on the 25th of March 2020 at their San Antonio facility, and that date is a Wednesday, I believe.
Yes,
and that's just
basically 2 days ahead of Texas Pinball Festival.
That's right. So people who go to the launch, the press launch, on the Wednesday will then have the Thursday to travel up to Frisco and get ready for the start of the Texas show on Friday.
Right.
And I guess that's what we're going to be doing.
Yeah. I'm already looking forward to it. Part 8, here we come.
For those who don't know, that's a barbecue. I don't know, shack.
Restaurant.
Yeah, just a short distance away from the Texas Pinball Festival show. It's a very popular one.
There's barbecue restaurants all over Texas, so I'm really looking forward to it.
I bet you are. Yes.
I think in general the reveal of Raza, although it was a soft launch, so to speak, and the idea was to collect data from basically people playing the game at this show. I think well, the game has potential. There were some mixed responses online, but mostly by people who didn't play it, weren't at the show. So, okay, that's easy to form an opinion behind your keyboard. I think Deeproot probably did very well for what they were intending to do. And it has us talking about them for 15 minutes, or how much is it?
Yeah. It's a potentially very interesting game in itself, but of course it's the launch game for Deeproot, so it's going to set the tone for how we perceive the company and their products. Right. So there's a lot riding on this game, and if the first game doesn't go well, then that puts them in a difficult situation for games 2 and 3 and so on, and they need to recover. But so starting off strongly, and it looks like they did with this one, is good for the company, and hopefully it'll be good for pinball as well.
Right, and all I can hope now is that they will have production organized in a decent manner, so that when they reveal games, that they have games available right away or soon after. We both know, and I think by now everybody who followed pinball the past decade knows that setting up a pinball company is not something that you do it's basically, pinball is hard, and setting up a factory that's supposed to be building pinball machines, that's a beast on its own. So designing pinballs is one, then manufacturing them. And on that area, I have to give credit to Stern. No matter what you think about their games, the manufacturing aspect is something that they are probably, without a doubt, the best in the industry. You can criticize the quality of certain parts or whatever, but still, that manufacturing aspect is they got that nailed, basically.
Well, absolutely. I mean, when they're not calling themselves a global lifestyle brand, Gary Stern was always very insistent that Stern Pinball is number one a manufacturer.
Right.
And it just so happens that they're manufacturing pinball machines, and he always saw the manufacturing as the number one thing he has to get right, and then the game design and all the bells and whistles hangs off that.
Right.
So yeah, you're right.
And we have seen
that's almost the opposite of what some other companies have done. They come up with small scale companies come up with a great or a good idea for a game. Which looks great on paper and looks very impressive in the renders, but then when it comes to actually building it, that's where the problems crop up.
Right. So hopefully Deeproot will have that narrowed down, or what the expression may be. And,
well, they've got basically 4 months from when they showed that game at the Houston Arcade Expo until they're launching it as a finished product in March next year. So we'll see how much has changed in that intervening time. I was assuming that what was at the show was the current state of the game and not an earlier version.
Right. Okay. So
yeah. So and on one of the videos that we saw, at least I saw, I assume you did as well, was from podcast host Jeff Teolis.
Right.
Yeah, who was playing the game with Emoto. Yeah.
Yes.
That was a video that is on YouTube.
Yeah, probably the best video of that game currently available.
Yeah, and they were doing a bit of swapping between who was holding the camera and describing the game and who was playing. But Jeff also has a role in the game, as far as I understand.
Yes, what I understood from the Super Awesome Pinball show is that Jeff is one of the voice talents in the game, so he's doing call-out. And apparently there's another Texan-based person who has been asked to do voice calls in the game, but they didn't want to get into details who that was. Mm-hmm. But Jeff Teolis has been confirmed as one of the voice actors in Red for Atomic Zombie Adventureland.
Yeah, very good. Oh, well, he's got a very good voice.
Yeah.
For radio, podcasts, and now pinball.
Right. So while we're on the topic of the super awesome pinball show,
yes,
and you mentioned radio, I take my hat off to Ed Vanderveen, Christopher Frenchy, and Christian, who did that super awesome pinball podcast. Their first episode. It's not a podcast. It's basically you're listening to a professional radio show. Sound quality wasn't all that great in certain bits, and they addressed that as well. They're working on that, but this was really a show. You can see that Christopher Frenchy has a history in making radio. And so they had lots of jingles and items and all that stuff. I thought it was really impressive. So for a first episode, I'd say congratulations to the super awesome pinball show.
I'm afraid I haven't listened to it yet, but based on your recommendation, I shall be streaming that over the weekend.
Right. So no, it's highly recommended. So. In terms of production, I don't think any other podcast, if you're looking at it like production, from a radio standpoint, then I take my hat off. Mm-hmm. I wish we had production like that.
Well, one day perhaps. Once all the sponsorship comes in, we'll be able to afford some sort of professional production facilities,
right,
and staff as well.
Yeah, to do all the editing and so on. Oh well.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Yes, our second headline was all about Haggis Pinball.
Yeah, it was before Gary interrupted. Yeah. I'm surprised he hasn't called back yet, but
he'll be back in a moment. I can feel it. Yes, so Haggis Pinball, they at the Pinball Expo, they had their Celts game, which was in the vendor hall, and they had it. They were saying had a price on it of $5,250 US, mm-hmm. and they were saying that they were going to start taking orders for the game through their website on the 1st of December. Well, I looked a bit earlier today and tried to order one, and it was saying that I had to call them to get a price, but literally, 10 minutes before we started recording this podcast, I had another look, and it had all changed. And now there are prices on there. So the base price for the machine is still the same, $5,250 US.
Right.
But it also gives the options to have your name in the game. I guess that means on the display, which will cost you $1,000 to have that.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I dare say anybody knowledgeable enough in that particular aspect of the game could probably hack into the game code and add their name to it for rather less than that. But other options are available. You can get a series of different trims, which is the metal work in various colours. That's a $500 option, and you can have a bunch of toys, suitable Celts themed toys added to the playfield, and that will cost you $250.
What?
So, yeah, well, it must be good ones. So I haven't seen them, but $250, I guess, all included in fitting. And this is selectable when you order the game. So yeah, the price can go from add all that in, and it can go from $5,250 up to about $7,000 when it's maxed out. But it's still, you can make a decision whether or not those things are important to you or not.
Right. So,
they've been promoting the game.
Yeah,
through
daily vlogging. Damien is daily vlogging by now. I think he started halfway through November doing that, and there's literally every day since then updates on his Facebook about what's going on with the production of the game, which sort of gave me the feeling like shouldn't you be building games instead of doing all these video posts. But okay, I guess he's used to doing those. So, sure, why not? So check out the Haggis Pinball on Facebook. I'm not sure whether the videos are also on Instagram, but Facebook for sure. And
the game's available to order if you like what you're seeing through haggispinball.com, where they have a shop, and you can also buy some other Haggis Pinball related pinball merchandise like caps and keychains and bottle openers and things like that.
Right. So one thing that I found interesting, I saw some pictures of back boxes for Celt in online. And it appears that the back of the back box has the Haggis Pinball logo, which is a pinball with a sort of a sort of explosion type of thing on top of it. It has that cut out of the wood on the back panel of the back box, which could indicate either two things, I think. Either it's going to be there's going to be a plastic cover from the inside or outside, whatever, or it's going to be filled up with some sort of material. But it could also be backlit. Not sure whether that's something worth. I don't know. I mean, it's the back of the game, but in a game room, it might look interesting to see that they actually did something to make the back of a game look more interesting.
Yeah, so not anything that people will see normally, but if it did sort of project their logo onto a back wall or something behind the machine, if there was enough space, it could be an interesting addition. Or it might be something, I haven't seen any mention of a topper, of course, for the game yet, but that might be coming, or might be made by third parties, but it could be something that could be incorporated into the topper, sort of by backlighting it that way.
Well, or you could have, if you have game modes, and each game mode has a different color. If it would be backlit, then basically, even if it's against the wall, then the wall would still integrate with gameplay because of that backlit logo. So to speak.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it could be like the Philips TVs that have ambi light, where they light up the wall behind the set.
Maybe it wasn't intended to be backlit, and we just gave them a good idea.
Okay, well, that's all right. There's plenty of good ideas out there. There's a reasonable chance we'd come up with one every now and again.
Right.
So that's I think that's everything about Haggis Pinball. So you can watch their vlogs and get updates through the haggispinball.com website.
Right. Okay. Moving on to, since there's still no sign of Gary, moving on to our third headline before we get to the news of all the other manufacturers. So we're not done yet, don't worry. The passing of Illinois pinball Gene Cunningham.
Yes, he's probably someone that, I mean, you probably know him more than I do.
Yes.
Because you actually went and stayed with him for a while.
Yes.
During the building of Big Bang Bar. So I don't know if you want to tell us a little bit about your experiences of working with and for Gene.
Sure. First of all, my sympathies and condolences to the Cunningham family, which is quite a large family. So for those who don't know who Gene Cunningham was, Gene Cunningham owned a lot of property in Bloomington, Illinois, and I guess that's sort of the base for his fortune, I would say. He had a bowling ring in there where he was operating. But he also rented a lot of houses to, I think, even to the state and what have you. But obviously, he had a passion for pinball. He had a huge collection, and I think when Valley Williams closed in 1999, as well as when Capcom closed, Gene was there to buy the remaining assets, which is what he did.
Yes.
And that allowed him to start Illinois Pinball, which was supposed to become a manufacturer for spare parts. But in all fairness, I have to say they were not as organized as they probably should be, in the sense that to get us, when I was there, it appeared they had great difficulty getting the quality that they needed for certain parts, or the vendors that they were sourcing it out to had problem making the product while they initially said that they could.
They also, Gene also acquired a lot of stock, didn't he, from Williams? A lot of parts.
Yes.
The boxes and boxes of stuff, and I think one of the big problems there was it was a huge task to actually work out what they had and where it was.
That's partly their own fault. I know a very interesting story about that, which I'm going to share actually. Jim Petla, who we know as a pinball designer, he was one of the last people to actually work for the pinball division for Williams. And one of the last things that he apparently did was actually doing the inventory of all the remaining stock. And it was all sorted. And then when Gene bought it, basically they brought in a couple of trucks. They put everything in the trucks, and out was the order. Everything organized. They just threw it in the trucks, and it was just one big pile of parts. And apparently, then it took months, if not longer, to sort it all out. So,
yeah, it was certainly years. I remember they eventually got set up the Bear Cave as a means of trying to sell the parts, but even then, what was actually on the website and what was actually in stock was often very different. So I think they always struggled to work out what they had and where it was.
And I think part of that problem is caused by the fact that Gene favored family or preferred to have family working for him than other people. But just because they are family doesn't mean that they are the best people for that job. And in a sense, it's a miracle. So that Gene managed to actually build 183 Big Bang Bar games. For those who don't know, Big Bang Bar is a Capcom game of which originally only, I think, 9 prototypes were built. And there was some talk that Williams would even take the design into production after Capcom closed their business. Eventually they didn't. And that game in the early 2000s had such a status on online, so to speak, because the story behind that game is so interesting. And at some point, I think in 2003, Gene Cunningham announced that he would be building Big Bang Bar. Initially 111, because he counted how many board sets he had from Capcom. And he came to 111, so he figured that he could build that game, that he could build 111 of these games. Which is quite a bold statement for someone who never built a pinball machine before. And as it turned out, it took him I think over 2 years to get production actually going, and then it took another year before games actually got delivered, although the games that shipped to Europe actually got released a year ahead of time due to the ROHS compliancy laws being applicable, or what have you. So,
due to the lead in the solder used, I think, was the main thing there.
Right. So anyway, I ordered a Big Bang bar, and because I didn't know Gene, but I rang him, and I was like, so you have no factory, how are you going to build these games? And he explained what his plans were, and it seemed to me like he could use some help. So I basically offered to come over for the month, and we discussed that, and we found a way to make that possible. The only problem was we didn't know yet when. So at some point we picked a date, and so I think I went from, I don't even remember when I was there, but it probably was something like October or so. And I stayed there for a month. Gene had arranged housing, which was great, so I could basically live there in a free bungalow apartment, or whatever you want to call it. Obviously I made some I negotiated my stay with Gene. He stayed, he kept all his promises to me. So other people have had some less fortunate experiences. I'm not one of them. I have really nothing bad to say about Gene Cunningham.
Right. Okay. Well,
and what I do have to say, during my stay, Gene took me to Chicago. He took me to Foremost Plastics, where most of the inserts for pinball machines are being manufactured. He took me to Stern Pinball. He had such great stories to tell on the road while we were driving up somewhere. He was a true pinball enthusiast, I'd say. And of course he has a collection, or had a collection. At that time it contained Wizard Blocks, the third Pinball 2000 game. It contained the fourth Pinball 2000 game, Playboy, and lots of rarities that you hardly ever see anywhere else. The problem was most of those games were all packed up or not even playable. But the collection was just immense.
Yeah, I think he had well over 1,000 games, didn't he? Spread across several warehouses, and there are videos available where he sort of guides you through that collection. I'm not sure whether they're part of the Pins and Vids series. They might well have been. But I'm sure Al will correct me on that if that's not the case. But it is, it's quite amazing to see those prototype, one-off, and sample games that are in his collection. But as you say, unfortunately they weren't kept in great conditions, and leaking roofs and damp and things did take their toll on, and eventually all that was sold off, I think, in order to pay various debts, and in the end, I think we just say that the Big Bang Bar project is definitely going to be his legacy.
Yes,
what he'll be most remembered for, and there are over 180 machines out there which exist now, which wouldn't have existed were it not for him.
Yeah. On a final note, I'll try to say this as respectful as possible. I think the Big Bang Bar project, which is currently a project that he lost apparently over $100,000 on, it could have actually have been profitable if he wouldn't have been so focused on sticking with the Capcom hardware system. Because even though at that time it was still not as common as today to work, P-Rock or Fast Pinball, those types of hardware to control a pinball machine were not available yet. But Gene insisted on building the game Big Bang Bar, and he even wanted to start building Kingpin.
Yeah, that's right.
But he wanted to use the original Capcom hardware system because he saw a huge market for spare parts for those games. I'm not sure whether that was right, but the problem that they ran into for years is that Capcom has a security chip on their CPU board, or whatever you call it, and that chip would that contains a number of fuses that are blown out in a certain way. But if you try to hack it, if you blow another fuse in there, then it doesn't work anymore.
That's right.
And they had the biggest problems. I don't think they ever succeeded in hacking that chip, but they spent literally years of trying how to do it.
Yes, I remember a seminar where it was describing how they actually physically take the chip and they start sanding it down from the top surface down until they get to the component level inside the package, and you can see which particular links are made and which ones aren't anymore, and then you can try and replicate that, by looking at it under a microscope just to see where the connections exist inside. There was no way of kind of reverse engineering it by interrogating it, by trying different combinations and seeing what worked. It was a security chip for a reason, and that was, as you say, that was one of the many things which stood in his way of making future games.
And his lack of computer knowledge also didn't help him. I mean, I remember that he was saying, like, we can't get one computer talking to another, and I'm like, what are you talking about? But apparently that's what he was told by people working on it. And in all fairness, I think quite a few people took advantage of that, because they figured, like, okay, we got somebody who has no clue what he's doing. I can tell him anything and he'll believe it, and he still will pay every invoice that I send him. So I think some people took advantage of that.
Okay, well, as you say, our condolences go out to Gene's family and those who knew him personally, and his legacy lives on through his games.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have nothing to add.
No, let's move on to some slightly some significantly happier news. As we can start looking at what various pinball manufacturers have been doing over the past months.
News, Stern Pinball did not announce a new game last month.
No, I thought they might do. We thought there'd be a new game announced, such that they would have it for the CES show in January.
Yeah, but they still might do that. I mean, we're still early December.
I still can.
Yeah, they still can. Sure. I thought people were expecting them to announce a game in between Christmas and New Year. So
I can do, but it's a difficult time to get too much publicity for a new game launch. If
they'll probably be the only ones. So.
Well, true, but various magazines are probably shut down over that period. So it would be good to get it out before, if they possibly can.
Yeah, but it will probably be similar to Monsters, which was completely revealed, I think, at the CES show with a big dress up by Gary and Zach and Jack Danger.
Oh, yeah.
So we're probably looking at something like that, I think. That's
so there was no new game announcement so far?
Not yet, but we're still expecting one this month.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
We'll
see whether that happens.
Elvira and Jurassic Park are relatively fresh games. So
they are. Yeah.
And speaking of those two, they actually got code updates, to start with those. You know all about the details of the code updates for Jurassic Park and Elvira. You want to get into that, or
I'll just do a quick summary. Jurassic Park's up to version 0.95, so getting very close to being a feature complete version, which would be version 1. They've actually added some new modes, which is interesting. They've got Visitor Center, Museum Mayhem, and Secure Control Room mini wizard modes have been added, which is as another one actually, Invalid Frenzy, which I've seen some pictures of from Keith, I think, been posting that on Facebook. And there's lots of new sound and lighting effects, a few bug fixes, which is kind of inevitable when you add new code, and some of the features, the way they work has changed as well. Won't go into all that now because it doesn't make any sense unless you know how they worked before. And quite a big update actually. So for Jurassic Park, not such a big update for Elvira's House of Horrors. That's on version 0.87, so a little way behind when it comes to getting the release version. They have just made a bit of a change to the way the Junk in the Trunk multi-ball works. But again, unless you're familiar with that, we won't bore you with the details of that. They added another haunt, which means another movie.
Right.
They put in. This one, Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, which sounds probably as high quality as it actually is. But the movie, that is, not the mode. I'm sure the mode's every bit as good, but you have to get into the locked room, which means getting the key in order to start that mode. So it's not one which is available straight away. It has to be qualified. And they made some things easier. They made a number of film clips, a number of shots you need to make to complete those movies, those haunts, lower for standard play, but actually made it harder for tournament mode. And
I don't feel sorry for tournament players. Sorry. So.
Yeah, well, probably. I was going to say probably make the game a bit faster, but it won't. It means you have to complete, make more shots, but maybe it means that there's more life to the game, more longevity to it. And then there's Trunk Multi-Ball, which is a bit strange one. It's not, you can't now combine it with Garage Multi-Ball or vice versa. So that sounds like something they've taken away. But I'm sure there's a good reason for doing that. And then, of course, there's the usual bug fixes. The way a few of the features change, some of the other features change, and they've added some more speech to the game. But I don't know whether any of that speech comes from Elvira herself. I suppose it must do for the Santa Claus Conquers the Martians haunt.
Right.
So it must be an introduction from her. There's also
new code for Batman.
Those aren't the only two. Yeah, exactly. Batman 66. This is kind of like a even more minor update. Doesn't add anything feature-wise to for the gameplay, but sort of adds in a bunch of sort of standard operator features and adjustments to the sort of underlying control system, which you would expect to be in the game these days, but were never put into Batman 66 until now, and now they are. So those are the three new code versions: Jurassic Park, Elvira, and Batman 66.
Right. Okay. And Stern was one of the 4 pinball companies present at the IAPA show in Florida. I think they had the biggest booth of all the vendors, which is not surprising because they probably also have the most games to sell.
Yeah,
or the most titles, I should say.
Yeah, they had a lot. They had Elvira, Jurassic Park, of course, Pro and Premium models of Jurassic,
Star Wars,
Deadpool. Yeah, Star Wars comic art was there. Deadpool, Guardians of the Galaxy, Monsters. Yeah, a big display, as we're used to seeing with Stern these days. It's still very impressive though when you do get to see the stand that they put together.
Right,
and one of the other new things, I suppose, which they have done, is it's not actually available just yet, but they are taking orders for the new Star Wars topper. I say new. It's so new we don't actually know exactly what it looks like. We've seen one before.
I've seen a picture, so I know what it looks like.
We know what it looks like. We don't know how it operates, what the functionality of it is. It was on show when Star Wars was during the factory tour at Pinball Expo a couple of years ago.
Right.
And that was just R2D2. It was sort of just turning left and right and had a light which came on and went off.
And if you get a free play, it sprays confetti. No, it doesn't.
That would be impressive, especially if it collected it all up afterwards, and so it could do it again. So pre-orders, I suppose, for that are being taken at the moment.
Right. It's quite an expensive topper, I have to say. I think it's like $749. And they are limited to 500 units, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, whether they're limited to 500 units because of the price, they don't think they'll sell many.
Yeah.
It's certainly one for die-hard Star Wars fans, I think.
Right. Interestingly,
maybe not for pinball players.
Yeah. Interestingly, I've already heard people talking about basically buying a topper, even if they don't have a Star Wars game, just to keep it in the box and sell it in a couple of years, because I think the value of these will even go up any further, or even more. Sorry. Which is, I wouldn't invest in that personally, but some people think like that would be a wise investment.
Yeah, well, certainly wouldn't be the first time people have bought things as an investment. And I mean, sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't.
It's at the moment I'm not aware of a huge topper aftermarket business going on. I mean, if people have a topper on a game and they sell the game, they usually sell it with the topper included. At least that's my impression. But oh well. Apparently other toppers were limited as well. I have no idea whether that's actually true, whether the KISS topper or the topper for I don't know what games they had. They did all sorts of toppers. Personally, I'm not keeping track. And I remember the KISS one, but I'm not sure whether that was limited or not. I just thought it was an expensive light box.
Yes. Which basically mirrored what was happening on the Translite or back glass underneath. It was a KISS logo was right underneath the KISS topper, right. The same words, but and it was lit in the back box and lit in the topper. So yeah,
but was the KISS logo animated in the back glass?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, right. It could light up the letters individually. I remember that.
Oh. Aren't you not talking about the belly game instead of the stern one?
I believe the stern one could do it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't remember,
I've seen that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, one other product from Stern's swag shop, I suppose, as you might describe it, is to do with the Black Knight game.
Yes, the soundtrack of Black Knight Sword of Rage, with music composed by Scott Ian of Anthrax, was already available at Comic-Con a couple of months ago, where they had a limited edition blue vinyl. I think it was limited to 100 copies, and although not officially announced, I think we reported on our podcast that we would not have seen the last of those. There would be other vinyls becoming available at a later stage, which now, and just as I expected, they changed the art of the cover and the color of the vinyl. At Comic-Con, they had a blue vinyl, and right now in the Stern shop you can order a orange vinyl of the Black Knight soundtrack. For just under $26 plus shipping, which is not too bad, I guess.
I guess not. If you like the music, yeah, then
my guess
makes
is
sense.
This is actually something that a lot of people might be interested in, not because of the music, but just to have it as a pinball. What do you call it?
Just a memento or a
something like
souvenir
that.
Especially if you're in the game. I suppose if you are that inclined, you might even be able to make it into an attractive topper, with some suitable light.
So I'm interested in one until I saw what shipping to the Netherlands cost, and then I lost my interest.
Well, I'm sure I'll be able to pick one up in Texas, in March, or Milwaukee.
That's what I'm counting on. But it's good to see that they announced, I think it was just before Black Friday, they announced this vinyl now being available. So
very appropriate.
Yeah. So if you're into that, then here's your chance. Yeah.
Okay. I think that wraps up the Stern Pinball news. Don't think we have anything else for them. So let's move on to what Jersey Jack Pinball have been up to.
I'm just looking at my phone, but still no Gary.
Oh, you might have to call him at this rate.
Yeah. Okay. Well, usually he comes in when we don't expect it the most. So now that we're counting on it.
Okay, that sounds about right. Yeah. Okay, but getting back to Jersey Jack Pinball. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, of course, is their current game, and we said the collector's editions were about to go into production in our last podcast, and in this one we can report that they did indeed and have been shipping this month. So all those lucky buyers who bought the collector's edition of Willy Wonka will either have got their machine or will be getting it fairly soon.
Right. And I don't think the collector's edition sold out yet. So if you're interested in buying a collector's edition, then you might still be able to do so.
Yeah, it's a very attractive looking game, I have to say. I haven't seen it a couple of times now. And of course, Jersey Jack Pinball were one of the four companies at IAPA.
Right.
They had obviously Willy Wonka there, and I think I don't know what other games I saw dialed in some of the pictures from the show, but they might have had other games as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Sorry, but at least those two games and possibly more. I'd say, well, I haven't seen it in pictures, but I would not be surprised if they would have had a Yellow Brick Road Wizard of Oz present, which is basically a game that they introduced this year, at least in this variation.
That's right. Yes, good point. So that's basically all we can come up with about Jersey Jack for this month. They're just busy building games. They haven't announced a new game yet, and we don't know when they will. We were expecting another title to have come out by the end of the year.
Yeah, or at least the announcement, and we might still get that because we still have 26 days left.
Yeah, it could happen. So,
it might also be for early next year. So
I think that's more likely at this stage.
Yes.
I think we might have heard rumours if the announcement was going to take place in the next couple of weeks.
Right. So, but speaking of announcements of new games, let's move on to Spooky Pinball, where we're also expecting the announcement of a new game. Although I don't think it will be this month, but I do expect it early January.
Yeah, well, they did say they'll be finished building the Alice Cooper games by December, or certainly during December. And they said they do still have a very small number of Alice Cooper games left out the limited run of 500. And when asked what small number was, they were saying it's in single digits. So presumably less than 10 remain. unsold, and are available. And I have to say, it's a fun game. I think it's their best game so far, personally. But so if you were looking to buy a Spooky Pinball product, I'd recommend that one. While there are still some available.
Right.
They were not at IAPA, as far as I understand it.
No.
But they were at a show called Days of the Dead, which was held at a hotel in Rosemont in Chicago, which used to be home of Pinball Expo, Rosemont.
Right.
Before they moved up to Wheeling. But they were there at the Days of the Dead show with Alice Cooper's Nightmare Castle. They had Rob Zombie, Spook Show International, that was there as well. And also they had a Monster Bash remake on their stand, which obviously not one of their games, but very much in keeping with the theme of the show.
Right. Yeah.
So that's but I would say that we would expect to have an announcement probably on Scott Denise's second game.
Yeah.
To be coming out fairly soon. Scott was at a recent show in Florida. Yeah,
where he was DJing as well, and Scott was also on the recent Spooky Pinball podcast, where he talked a huge story or a big story about how you play. Haunted House Party, which is supposed to be the title of his upcoming game. And if you're interested in that, then I suggest listen to the Spooky Pinball podcast, because I forgot half about what's supposed to be going on, but it has to do with the guy that is invited to a party at a haunted house, and but since nobody's believing that will actually be the theme, either it would be a surprise if it actually is, or we're looking forward to what it actually will be. But so far, the people at Spooky who played it and talked about it said that it's going to be their best game yet.
Wow. Okay, we've got something to live up to after TNA.
Right.
So that's spooky news. Now let's move to another pinball manufacturer, and to Streamwood, which is where they still are.
Yeah,
I think,
American Pinball
at the moment. Yeah, they haven't moved to Palatine yet, but
no. They did have a party in Palatine, I think, where they will be moving. There was
Aimtron Fest.
Yes, that was the 30th of October. So we covered that in our last podcast already.
Yeah.
Oh, forget about it. I didn't mention it. Anyway, but there's sort of big news from American Pinball, because they announced a new game, but it's not a pinball machine.
No, we alluded to it last time with the title of it, at least, saying it pretty much summed up you.
Right.
But their game, their redemption game, is called The Flying Dutchman, and they were showing it at IAPA. They were, another one of the four who was there. This game is designed by Brian Hansen, who was a pinball designer for Pinball Magic and Flipper Football as well.
Yeah,
and did some Wizard of Oz design work as well. The game is a large piece, I think that's fair to say. It's although it's a large unit, it seems to have quite a small screen on it, which is a bit puzzling. It's got an LCD panel, but it doesn't seem to be that large compared to the rest of it. The basic idea is that you are firing a cannon, and it actually shoots ping pong balls out of the cannon, and you're shooting it at a sort of rotating cylinder, which has holes cut in it in various places of various sizes. And if you get a ball in a hole, then the larger the hole, the fewer tickets you win, and the smaller ones are the more valuable ones. And it's a timed game, so after the time is up, the game shuts off, and you get your tickets.
Right.
it looked very interesting. Had a nice light show and everything on it. Plenty of LEDs everywhere. It was pretty much mandatory these days for any redemption piece. So I think it could well do very nicely in a family entertainment centre or a mixed arcade. But it's not pinball. We'll have to wait until we find out what their next pinball machine is going to be.
Yeah, and Joe Balser just confirmed that that game will be revealed at the Texas Pinball Festival in March. So that's just 4 months away.
Yeah, so it's going to be a busy time at that show with Deeproot having their new game or games there. American Pinball also having it there, and
who knows who else?
As we just heard, and as we heard, Spooky. Well, they'll have to announce their game before that, but it should be in production,
right? And
by that time, so they might have their new game there,
right? Well, Stern usually is waiting until after Texas by revealing their second game, second new game of the year.
Yes, normally almost immediately after Texas.
Yes.
Like the Monday or whatever straight after.
Right. American Pinball also had a special offer for the December month, where you get a voucher for a $500 discount on a future game purchase if you're buying Houdini or Oktoberfest before the end of the year. So if you're in the market for one of those games and you figure like, well, these guys are doing a great job and I might be interested in a future game as well, then now is your time to get one.
Yeah, $500 discount, I should say, is not to be sneezed at.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So the final artwork for their mascot, I would call her, Amy Pin, has also been revealed. Last month there was already, I think, a blackline drawing, and now it's colored in. So we got to see the final version, which I think looks very nice. And the response online was also very good, because people were really hoping that this artist would be doing the artwork for the third game of Spooky, which sadly is not the case.
Right. Oh, okay. That's news to me. I hadn't heard that. But I'm not quite sure how American are going to use this mascot and in what use. I don't think it's going to replace their logo on the games. But maybe it'll be on the back glass in the corner or something. And it's a nice design, but I'm not entirely clear how Amy Pin, as she's called, is going to feature in future.
I don't know either, but I'm curious to see what they plan to do with her.
Yeah,
and that artist, say that, which is Joel the Guzman, and he also did artwork for various pinball shows, posters, and so on. The name may not ring a bell, but this artwork might be familiar once you know that he did it. So,
and talking of shows, as we said, American Pinball were at IAPA too.
Right.
They had, I think, two Oktoberfest and two Houdini machines there on their stand,
with the Flying Dutchman in between them.
Absolutely, yeah. That's where they revealed that game. Yeah. Okay, so that's American Pinball news.
Right. So then moving on to Dutch Pinball.
Yeah, that's across the Atlantic.
Right. Barry is Dutch Pinball is it's, I guess you could almost call it a one-man show, although it's not. But they are still producing the Big Lebowski Pinball. Barry sent out a newsletter, and where he explained that they had to organize their new facility, and at first they didn't have any shelves or whatsoever, which made it rather difficult to build games, obviously, because you need a certain part, and then you need to work yourself through a pile of parts before you get to it. And now they have shelves. And
they were all scattered around the floor, weren't they?
Yeah.
In boxes, I should say, that were all over the floor. So, yeah, certainly not the ideal manufacturing setup. But that's been addressed now with shelving and racks and work tables and the tools they need as well.
Right,
I think. And I think he's also implemented a sort of what's called an ERP, an enterprise resource planning system, which is kind of manages the project. It gives you all the tools that you need in order to keep track of milestones and assets and
right.
And
which
people.
parts are running low on stock and so on.
Absolutely,
yeah. So, other than more exciting news, I guess. Obviously, if those who remember the story of Dutch Pinball, there were people who ordered a Big Lebowski back in 2014, I think it was. And those people are still waiting for their games. Those people who got in early on are called early achievers. And in the newsletter, a early achiever laser cut bottom apron was revealed, which will be lit from the bottom. And it has several stars that you, if you're familiar with the movie, resemble. I think they were on the wall of the bowling alley.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
and they lit up as well. So that's something that will only be on the early achiever games.
Yeah, I don't know whether I'm misremembering it, but I thought that was actually in the original design for the game, that it would have. The bottom apron would be backlit and with those sort of starburst cutouts, so in various colours. And then I think it was later taken out of the production games, as it was either not something that they could do reliably, or it was too expensive.
Right, and I'm not exactly sure what it was, but I think it had got enhanced. It now says early achiever edition. It's also cut out in the apron. So, and I guess that they are able to offer such apron now has to do with finding a new supplier for sheet metal.
Right. Yes. So Barry has been outsourcing or looking to outsource the assembly of certain parts in the game, as it's not practical or not the best use of their time to actually go building up cables themselves or some of the assemblies. It would make a lot more sense to get those made outside and just brought in as complete units, so they can then just add into the game. So he's been doing that, he said, and there was also some potentially very good news for those early achievers, in that Barry was saying he thought that in early 2020, i.e. in a couple of months' time, he hopes to be able to start sending out the first early achiever games to those people who are already paid.
Right. Well, that certainly is good news. And there was even more news, because there was a code update for the Big Lebowski.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was expecting that just yet, but it's certainly made some improvements. There were issues with the car toy, which sort of comes out. It's on the upper playfield, which could swing out, and it used to sort of judder at times, or not move smoothly in and out. Now they've changed the code, and that is apparently, from reports from those who have installed it, generally fixed that problem, I think. So that's very good.
Right.
Other than that, there hasn't been a lot of stuff going on. There's been a few, enhanced lighting effects, and a sort of mode. Well, the site rules change to where timers stop when the ball is either in the upper playfield or in the pot bumpers. And I talk of pot bumpers. There's LED. Oh no, this is more slingshots rather than pot bumpers. To be fair, there's lamp effects on those as well. And he's also added something for those for the online players, because you can log in and register your scores with the Dutch Pinball servers, and there are now some trophies that can be won if you log in before starting the game. So that's nice to see. There will be future updates, I'm sure, as they get a little more time away from having to set up their manufacturing and get on to writing more code and testing it within the factory.
Right.
So, but it's nice to see a new version come out. So that's something for those people who have the game. And I think, I think that's pretty much everything. Unless you have any more insights. So, have you spoken to Barry?
No,
recently.
Not the past month. No.
Okay. And no more insights other than what we've already brought you.
Yeah. No, I think basically that's all we have for this month. I do have to mention that at the beginning of November there was the Dutch Pinball Open.
Indeed.
You were there as well. You wrote a very impressive report. So if people are interested in what that show was like, then visit Martin's website, pinballnews.com.
Oh, that's very kind. And it was a good show. I enjoyed it. You and I did our quiz there. We were fortunate enough to have a nice bunch of prizes from our sponsors.
Yeah.
So thanks to them. And of course, we will be back doing that again in Texas in March.
And at the Midway Gaming Classic.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you don't catch us down in Frisco, you better catch us up in Milwaukee. And for those of you who are going to both, we're going to have to come up with two sets of quiz questions, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah. So some work there for us to do, but we should hopefully be able to give away some more lovely prizes.
Right. So I guess that's it for now. I'm still waiting for Gary to call.
But you know what's going to happen? As soon as we finish, he'll call.
Probably.
You know
Yeah. But oh well. Better luck next time, Gary. And that's it for now. I'm the editor of Pinball Magazine. There is a slight bit of delay on the reprint of Pinball Magazine number 2, speaking of my own magazine, but I hope to go to print this month. So as Pinball Magazine is not shipping out any orders in December because we had terrible experiences with that in the past, so the reprint of Pinball Magazine number 2 should be available early January, and then we start immediately shipping those. So.
Great. And is there any insight you can give us as to when or if the next edition of Pinball Magazine might be available?
Well, it's a good one. I'm aiming for the middle of March because we have 2 pinball shows that we'll be attending, and I'd like to have the magazine there. But I still have to get started, and I also have a career in producing music, and I've been really producing a lot of music lately.
Yeah, it's been a busy time, I know. Yeah, we talk about that off mic, but certainly does sound like that's a big growth area at the moment.
Yeah, certainly content-wise, still a lot of that music has to be released. That's actually part of the plan. So currently, the plan is to this week I will make a planning for music to be released in the first couple of months of 2020, which will not see a lot of promotion other than being released and having the usual promotional things going on. But hopefully some of that can be automated. And in the meantime, I hope to focus on finishing Pinball Magazine number 6.
Great. Well, fingers crossed that'll be available in time for Texas and Milwaukee.
Yeah.
The Midwest Gaming Classic. So
it's going to be a big task. Basically, I have like 3 months to do it, and then it needs to be go to print. So, but yeah, I really want to get a new issue out as well, and not just the reprint of issue 2. So.
And of course, we'll be back with our podcast as well. So that takes up a huge chunk of time as well, doing all the research into what's been going on in the pinball world. So you've got a busy year ahead.
Oh well, I'm used to that. But it's
you wouldn't want it any other way.
No, so far I'm pretty happy with my life. So
good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll have to do it without Gary, but we'll be back next month. With our recap of December of 2016. 2019. But who knows? We might do another year as well.
Yeah, let's do a retro version. We look back at a popular month and all the news. Yes. Okay. So until then, anyway, we'll see you in January 2020 or the end of December. With that look back at the month. And so until then, let us wish you a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you are celebrating. And we hope that 2020 is another fantastic year for both you and for pinball.
Right, okay. And the same from me. So that's it for now. Until next month. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.